Hi, and welcome to our recruiting Swampcast. It is finally over recruiting, which means I can get a haircut now, I think, Robbie.
You need one.
I know, I do. Great day for Florida's recruiting. Again, Robbie, stocking players, stocking classes on top of each other. And Urban saying today this might be his favorite class of all.
Yeah, well, I think he's looking at it that way because of the needs they filled. Defensive line, tackle in particular, and the secondary. They've got a whole new secondary coming in led by Will Hill, the All-American safety. So I think he feels good about playing the needs. And then he went out of his way to, praise Omar Hunter when he needs this class. This is a kid that he thinks, could maybe even start as a true freshman.
When you think about the tackle position now with John Brown, Torrey Davis will be here underneath, obviously in the weight room. Carlos Dunlap, they're in good shape at tackle, where last year it was a weakness. This year may end up being a strength.
Yeah, and the same with the secondary. Pat, you look at the talent they're bringing in, they've got a chance now to have numbers and depth. Where last year you had one injury like Marky Anderson at corner, all of a sudden they had a real problem getting guys in the field. So now I think they've replenished in a lot of areas, especially where they needed to. And to me, the Omar Hunter and the William Green, you mentioned William Green too, as a Jarvis Moss type. And I know there was talk he could be an outside linebacker. There's no question this guy's going to be an end. He's going to grow into it, and I think he's going to play early, too.
I talked to Urban a little bit before the press conference, Robbie, and he was saying how he looked a little stunned when I said that there were people actually complaining about the way they closed. He said, hey, we were 36 about 3 weeks ago, and got all the way up to number 1. So they closed, and just because the last day, there's always that perception because they lost 2 kids. But they didn't have a good finish. They had a great finish.
Yeah, I don't know why, but on signing day, when you lose a couple of people look at who you lost instead of who you got. But I think as the days pass and you start looking over that list, people are going to be very happy with, another great class, his third in a row. And to do it with down 2 coaches and with all the young talent on this team now, that was a pretty remarkable recruiting feat for this coaching staff.
Yeah, and again, when you can bring in and recruit for need rather than just recruit players, as he said, that's huge. Also having 8 guys in early. That's 17 in 2 years who've come in and had a year or had a full semester ahead of everybody else and able to get in some work, get in the weight room, learn the offense, things, or defense, whatever it may be. Next year, Robbie, we were talking to him about it. They're not going to be able to do that because obviously when you have 65 freshmen and sophomores, there's not going to be the room there. They may bring in 4 or 5 early enrollees, but that's been it's been a key for them. I think it's going to be a key in the 2008 season as well. Yeah,
when you look at the guys that are in here now, Carl Moore and Epps and these guys, these are guys they're going to count on to play. And Moore could be one of the best players on offense, and he turns out to be that he's the player that everyone thinks he is. And Epps could be a starter defensive tackle. So these are real important guys that are in here early. And like he said, maybe only 4 or 5 next year. And like he said, he wants 8 or 9 would be the ideal way to do it.
Yeah, there's no question. Another great recruiting class. And I think when you talk to Urban Meyer, he is excited. He is in love with this class, and that's all that really matters. You got to trust your coaches sometimes.
Yeah, and like you said, they took their time on this, and they didn't. A lot of guys want to commit early. They wouldn't let them commit. They kind of picked out their guys, their targets, and went and got them, and got most of the guys they wanted.
No question about it, and it's just going to be an interesting to see which of those guys play right away. When somebody asked about it, he said Hunter, Hill, Will Hill could be the starting safety before it's all over.
And that is the one thing he can sell to recruits every year. They play true freshmen.
Yes.
It's been every year that he's been here. True freshmen have played a key role. It's going to be the same this year, I would imagine.
Yeah, now the funniest story of the day probably involved when Urban was asked about Caleb Sturgis, representing St. Augustine High, and he said he apparently kicked a 45-yard field goal, turned around and kicked it the other way. And he had to explain to us that meant 65 yards.
For us math majors.
Yeah, but he hasn't seen it happen. He didn't see it, so he wants to see it.
But I heard some people say they did see it, that Under Armour All-American game in practice he did. So.
Yeah, he's a St. Augustine guy. He's got to be great.
He'll be a starter this year, I'm predicting. I'm almost positive.
Who else? Let's go. Give me your predictions. Who do you think will be not necessarily starter, but significant playing time?
I think Sturgis. I think Carl Moore is going to start. I think he's going to be a big-time player. I think Epps at tackle is going to be a factor there. And I think, we mentioned Omar Hunter. I don't know if he's going to start early in the year, but I think he's going to play a whole lot. Maybe end up being a starter.
As Urban said, it's going to be hard to keep him out of that first rotation. I think William Green, you add him in, Will Finley. Will Hill, the combination. Dee Finley's a guy, I'm not sure they know where to put him right now.
Yeah, he could be a linebacker. He's a 220-pound guy maybe, 215, 220. So they've got a lot of options there, and they're kind of top-heavy now strong safety. So I think he's a guy they may look at a couple positions.
All the heavy leans and soft commitments
It's over. Thank God.
Exactly. And we'll be back with our next Swampcast, I guess, somewhere around spring football.
Spring practice starts March 17th.
That's right. It's right around the corner. Until then, Pat Dooley, Robbie, Andreu, the Gainesville Sun saying so long from the Sunshine State.